Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Shackle 5858. I am Amish Shackle. Following news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please let's go to the headlines.
Tonight, we're following several developing stories as we come on the air. Severe storms sweep across the Northeast. The president's crackdowns in Chicago and Boston, and Russia launches its biggest attack yet on Ukraine. We begin with those powerful storms. A possible tornado strikes Massachusetts. Families sheltering in their basements emerge to see the damage while wildfires burn in the West. Fall-like temperatures in many parts of the country this week, and the outlook as we head into the peak of hurricane season. Our weather team is covering it all. The Trump administration launches new immigration crackdown in Boston, promising to go after the worst of the worst. In Chicago, thousands protest mass deportations. The governor of Illinois accuses President Trump of threatening to go to war with Chicago. Ukraine under attack as Russia launches its largest aerial assault yet with more than 800 drones and decoys. The government headquarters set on fire. Ukraine's president tells our Martha Raddatz what he wants from Western allies. Also tonight, a quickly moving fire spreads to 4 commercial buildings in Minneapolis where fire crews face multiple obstacles as they fight the flames. The fight over a home run ball that went viral. A woman demands a dad give her the ball, and how his young son came out the winner in all this. Tonight, a major break after police say a couple's gift box was stolen as hundreds celebrated at the wedding reception. Sinner versus Alcaraz, the epic meeting of the world's top tennis players. Aryna Sabalenka celebrates her repeat win, the latest from the U.S. Open. The long Powerball drought comes to an end after 3 months without a winner, and not one but 2 winners emerge in the $1.8 billion jackpot, where they were sold and what each winner could take home in a lump sum payment. And the Catholic Church has its first millennial saint as Pope Leo canonizes a teenager who was known as God's influencer.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
Joining us now for tonight's big close-up is House Majority Leader Steve Scalise. Majority Leader, thanks for joining us, sir. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So President Trump officially designated major drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. Does that justify the strike in the Caribbean, or should Congress have a greater role in authorizing military actions against cartels moving forward?
Well, of course, we've seen the results of the cartels bringing drugs into America. It's about 150 dead young people in America every single day. I mean, this is something that's been going on for too long. President Trump said he would do something about it, and it's not just pictures of drugs that are going to stop these narco-terrorists. It's going to be the image of the boat being blown up, and the idea that if you send another boat, the next boat, and all the people you bring on it with all the drugs is also going to be blown up. That's going to stop the infiltration of drugs into the United States.
Is it a war?
It's been a war, but it's been a one-sided war. The narcos have been sending drugs into our country, laden with fentanyl made in China for decades now, and it's gotten worse the last few years. When Biden opened up the border, we saw the flow of illegal drugs and things like fentanyl coming into our country even more, killing people every single day, and it's primarily young people that it's killing. I mean, literally a plane load of people getting blown up every day would shock the world, yet it was happening every day by drugs, and everybody was looking the other way. President Trump doesn't operate like that. He's not looking the other way. He's angry, like we all should be, about the deaths of those young people, and he's doing something about it.
Leader Scalise, it's Lydia Hu here. Thanks for being with us. Speaking of stopping this flow of deadly drugs into our country, ICE has now opened up a new detention facility in Louisiana. It's called Louisiana Lockup, and it's expected to house more than 400 illegal aliens. And at the same time, the president has suggested that he could send the National Guard to clean up crime in New Orleans. But at least one Democrat in your state doesn't want that federal help. Congressman Cleo Fields admits there is a crime problem in New Orleans, but is rejecting any help from the National Guard. Leader Scalise, I'm just curious, what do you make of kind of this Democrat defense of, rights of illegal migrants and people that are smuggling drugs over the interests of American citizens for safety and security?
Hey, you've been seeing this for years.
On the Sunday night, Ukraine under attack. Russia unleashes its largest aerial assault of the war, striking Ukraine's government. What it means for a ceasefire and sanctions. Blocking the booze. is open, as broadcasters are told not to show the crowd's reaction. Speed camera decapitated the brewing battle over Toronto's traffic enforcement. Plus, God's influencer. The Catholic Church names its first millennial saint.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Jeff Simple.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. Russia unleashed its largest ever aerial attack on Ukraine overnight, pounding the country with hundreds of drones and more than a dozen missiles, marking a major escalation in the war and coming just days after U.S. President Trump announced plans for more peace negotiations. Russia claimed it only attacked military infrastructure, but for the first time, Russian bombs struck the main government building in Kyiv, along with numerous residential buildings. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed 4 people were killed, including an infant, and there was extensive damage across the country. Hours later, President Trump responded.
Are you ready to move to the second phase of sanctions against Russia or punishing for how?
Trump's comments mark the strongest indication yet that he plans to ramp up sanctions against Moscow, a move he has so far resisted as he pushes for peace talks. Tonight, Nathaniel Dove reports on Russia's assault and the fast-fading hopes for a ceasefire.
More than 800 Russian drones, more than a dozen missiles lighting up the night. And raining down on Ukraine. Afterwards, smoke and debris. This man says, "I was scared. We fled into the hallway for safety." The attacks hitting Ukraine's cabinet of ministers, its main government building. Ukraine's prime minister says it shows Russia is not seeking peace. An expert says it's like bombing Canada's parliament.
A country that seriously wants to negotiate would not run the risk of killing its counterparts, those with whom it would negotiate. That's something you do.
Good morning. The new Home Secretary says migrants will begin being returned to France immediately.
As Shabana Mahmood prepares to host world leaders to discuss the rise of people smuggling gangs.
But as crossings pass the 30,000 mark this weekend, just days into her role, and she get a grip on the growing crisis.
Breaking news overnight, an Australian mother who murdered her husband's parents by feeding them poisonous mushrooms has been sentenced to a minimum term of 33 years behind bars.
Unions gang up on the Prime Minister. They're warning him against watering down the new Workers' Rights Bill. We'll be speaking to the General Secretary of the TUC about that and more live from their annual conference. That's at 8:15 a.m.
3 years since Queen Elizabeth II's death, we'll be remembering the monarch who devoted her life to royal service.
Prince Harry's home, well, almost. Duke of Sussex landing in London later today as he begins a 4-day visit back in Britain. But is it time King Charles reconciled with the modern-day prodigal son?
And in sport, at the age of 22, Carlos Alcaraz won his 6th Grand Slam title last night, beating Yannick Sinner in the final of the US Open. In cricket, after 2 disappointing ODI performances, England thrashed South Africa by the biggest margin ever in cricket history. And Rory McIlroy won the Irish Open in a nail-biting playoff yesterday.
Good morning. It's a day of sunshine and showers today, and it's really setting us up for an unsettled week ahead. Find out all the details coming up a little later.
Hello there, very good morning. It's good to have you on board. The time, 1 minute past 6 o'clock on this Monday morning. I'm Eamon Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Just to start.
Today, convicted killer Erin Patterson to spend at least 33 years behind bars for the fatal mushroom lunch.
4 generations of the extended Patterson and Wilkinson families have been traumatised by your crimes.
A second police officer allegedly killed by Victorian fugitive gunman Desi Freeman to be laid to rest. A New Zealand man who evaded authorities for nearly 4 years killed in a shootout with police. And Carlos Alcaraz on top of the world after beating Yannick Sinner in the US Open final. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Catherine Robinson. Victorian woman Erin Patterson has been sentenced to life in prison with a non-parole period of 33 years after being found guilty of murdering 3 members of her ex-husband's family.
I have no hesitation in finding that your offending falls into the worst category for the offences of murder and attempted murder.
Patterson has been given 3 life sentences for the murder of her in-laws Don and Gail and Gail's sister Heather Wilkinson. She's also received 25 years for the attempted murder of Ian Wilkinson. She will not be eligible for parole until 2056, when she'll be 83 years old. Justice Christopher Beale was scathing in his remarks.
Your offending involved an enormous betrayal of trust. Your victims were all your relatives by marriage. More than that, they had all been good to you and your children over many years, as you acknowledged in your testimony. Not only did you cut short 3 lives and cause lasting damage to Ian Wilkinson's health, thereby devastating the extended Patterson and Wilkinson families, you inflicted untold suffering on your own children, whom you robbed of their beloved grandparents. 4 generations of the extended Patterson and Wilkinson families have been traumatised by your crimes.
Reporter Alexandra Alvaro was at the Supreme Court in Victoria.
Well, true to form with this case this morning, there was a huge line of journalists and members of the public waiting to get in to the courtroom where Erin Patterson would be sentenced this morning. Erin Patterson arrived in a prison van to the court complex. She was taken into the courtroom flanked by prison guards.
Hello and a warm welcome if you're just joining us. You're watching Daybreak here on France 24. These are the headlines. 3 high-rise apartment blocks bombed in just 3 days in Gaza City. Dozens more people killed as Israel's military says it's only going to intensify its attacks. While starving Palestinians are being told to flee but with nowhere to run to. US President Donald Trump now saying there's another new ceasefire deal on the table that the Israelis have agreed to. Hamas says it's listening. The biggest aerial bombardment in the war so far. Russian missiles and drones over Ukraine killed 4 at the weekend. Government buildings in Kyiv left in flames. US President saying he's prepared to move forward with sanctions on Russia. There's to go now until France's Prime Minister is expected to be voted out of office. François Bayrou has put his position in jeopardy by calling for the vote in a bid to get his budget passed. But all of the opposition parties say they are still going to vote for him to go. Political and financial turmoil ahead. Good to have you with us. Also coming up, where you'll have our review of the international newspapers. For that, we'll be joined by Emily Boyle. With one other things, she'll be talking to us about the latest Guinness World Record, the world's longest strudel.
This is DW News, and these are our top stories. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has called for more air defenses after Russia launched its biggest aerial assault since the war began. One of Kyiv's main government offices was hit for the first time in Sunday's barrage of hundreds of missiles and drones. Residential buildings were also targeted, and at least 2 people were killed. Thousands of Palestinians are fleeing Gaza City as Israel steps up its offensive in the territory's most populous city. The Israeli military has leveled more high-rise residential buildings, saying they are used by Hamas militants. Israel has told residents to evacuate the city and says it has set up a humanitarian safe zone in Gaza's south. A so-called blood moon has wowed stargazers in Asia and parts of Europe and Africa. The rare lunar eclipse is formed by the Earth, Moon and Sun all aligning to block out sunlight, turning the moon a shadowy red. The next such event is expected on New Year's Eve 2028. This is DW News from Berlin. You can get more on our website, dw.com.
Germany wants its economy.
This is Asia Now.
Hello, it is 12 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 9:30 a.m. in New Delhi, and 11 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Yasmin Yonkers at this hour. The race to fill Japan's leadership vacuum begins after Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba decides to step down. The risk of political instability weighing on the Japanese yen and the nation's longer-term bonds. South Korea to bring some 300 Hyundai workers home after a massive immigration raid at the firm's Georgia plant. The foreign minister, Cho Hee-yoon, reportedly leaving for Washington today for talks related to their release. Triple Australian mushroom murderer Erin Patterson sentenced to life in prison and denied parole until aged 82. Her victims were elderly relatives of her estranged husband. Plus,
and I'm Roland Lim at the Asia Pacific Conference, Petroleum Conference that is, in Raffles City, Singapore. Where industry leaders, experts, executives gather to discuss headwinds in the energy markets in the face of geopolitical factors like tariffs and sanctions, as well as the pathway for the energy transition.
Africa News. The news. Once the backbone of Sudan's economy, the sector has been crippled by widespread fighting that destroyed irrigation systems, drove farm workers from their land, and left vast areas uncultivated. Since 2024, the conflict has spread into key grain-producing regions in central and southeastern Sudan, further reducing arable land. The Gezira Agricultural Scheme, Sudan's largest irrigated farming zone, has been particularly hit hard. The infrastructure of the Gezira Agricultural Zone has suffered severe damage in the conflict. Houses and buildings, irrigation facilities, farm machinery, and other agricultural inputs were badly damaged. Large tracts of farmland have been abandoned, and even the management offices were looted. One could say the entire agricultural zone is nearly destroyed. Although fighting in Gezira has eased since early this year, and displaced families are beginning to return, recovery has been slow. Local authorities estimate the conflict has caused between $15 and $20 billion in damages. Everything is terrible. We have no money, no food, and all supplies are exhausted. We don't even have drinking water, so we fetch it from the river. This is the hardship we're facing now. According to the United Nations, about 24.6 million Sudanese are facing severe food insecurity or worse. Shops and markets selling school supplies have seen brisk business in recent days as families stock up on essentials from notebooks and pens to school bags, underlining their commitment to giving children the best possible start to the year.
Today
I come to the library with my mom to prepare for the new school year and started in a good mood after a nice trip. God willing, I'll be the first to arrive and get high grades in my studies. As the holidays come to an end, we try to prepare the kids mentally. We talk to them because they need time to adapt to the school environment and to leave the holiday mood behind. We hope to succeed in this process. The Education Ministry has been visiting schools to assess their readiness ahead of the reopening. The World Health Organization no longer considers the Mpox outbreak in Africa to be an international health emergency, the UN's agency director said Friday. A new form of Mpox emerged in early 2024 in Congo and neighboring African countries, spread through close contacts, including sex. The WHO declared it a global health emergency in August of last year. The International Emergency Declaration, the agency's highest level of warning about threatening health issues, triggers the release of resources and enhanced public awareness campaigns, among other measures. Mpox, formerly known as monkeypox, is a rare disease caused by infection with a virus that is in the same family as one that causes smallpox.
Yes, the use of AI language models soar, with AI-powered websites becoming part of daily life for millions around the world. Some in Africa are concerned that citizens are being excluded from Western-focused software. Efforts are now being made in South Africa, Kenya, and Nigeria to create more AI products in African languages. The use of AI is penetrating even villages, where farmers are even incorporating ChatGPTs in translating some of the language modules.
Because I think farming is a lifelong learning experience. You hit a lot of challenges. You can see my cabbages, they're like opening. So, I can go into AI and ask that my cabbages are opening, what that is. Or I think for somebody in the rural areas like me who is not exposed to technology or anything, you can ask in a simple language.
There are already small examples of how indigenous languages used in AI can be used to solve real-life challenges in Africa, according to Professor Marivet.
And their own innovations in those spaces, but we will provide some benchmark to say, here's Isindebele, for example, here's a new data set of audio with transcript for Isindebele, language that in South Africa typically is one of the lowest resourced in those spaces.
Researchers have recorded more than 9,000 hours of local speech to open up this transformative new technology to more people across the continent. These have vastly quantities of online text to transform.
In a very simple sense, you want people to have agency over their lives. From that perspective, we're engaging in assisting people in participating in a digital economy because they're now able to engage with these businesses that are providing essential products and services.
But as many African languages are mostly spoken rather than written down, there is a lack of text to train AI on to make it useful for speakers of those languages. 4 million across the continent, this means being left out.
Hello, good morning. It's 6 o'clock on today's show. Australia's most talked about case in decades comes to a close. Mushroom killer Aaron Patterson is sentenced to life in prison.
Plus, who's sliding you on? Unions tell the government no backsliding on workers' rights now that Angela Rayner has gone from the cabinet.
It's Monday, the 8th of September. Triple murderer Aaron Patterson is sentenced to life in prison and will serve at least 33 years before she can be considered for parole.
Your offending involved an enormous betrayal of trust.
Could Madeleine McCann have been killed in a hit and run? Sky News tracks down the woman at the centre of the investigation. New Home Secretary Shabana Ramoud meets with US and other members of the Five Eyes Security Alliance on how to stop people smuggling. A blood moon captivates sky watchers around the world. And in sport, Carlos Alcaraz is the US Open champion once again. He defeated rival Jannik Sinner to take both his title and world #1 ranking. Hello, good morning. It's the small town murder that's become Australia's most talked about case in decades. Aaron Patterson has been sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 33 years for killing her estranged husband's family with poisoned mushrooms she served in a beef Wellington. Outside court, the sole survivor of the deadly lunch thanked the police for their professional, efficient and effective investigation. Nicole Johnson reports.
Convicted triple murderer Aaron Patterson has been sentenced to a life behind bars. She must serve at least 33 years.
Your offending involved an enormous betrayal of trust. Your victims were all your relatives by marriage. More than that, they had all been good to you and your children over many years, as you acknowledged in your testimony.
The public interest is so great that for the first time in its history, Victoria's Supreme Court allowed the sentencing to be broadcast live. The judge saying Patterson attempted an elaborate cover-up.
Instead of informing those treating the Pattersons and Wilkinsons that you had used foraged mushrooms.
Tonight, the defense from President Trump after Illinois' governor accuses him of wanting to go to war with Chicago. The president, before attending the U.S. Open today, leading into a new push in what he calls Chi-pocalypse.
We're not going to war. We're going to clean up our city.
His administration launching a new immigration crackdown in another blue city, but on his handling of the economy, our new poll finding frustration from many Americans. Our Steve Kornacki will break it down. Hawaii under a state of emergency tonight with Hurricane Kiko set to pass just offshore, bringing dangerous rip currents and maybe maybe coastal flooding. We've got the track and the preps. Russia staging its biggest aerial attack on Ukraine so far in this war, as the president previews more sanctions on the way. Thousands turning out at the Vatican as Pope Leo declares the first millennial saint. New questions for pregnant women about a popular pain reliever. The advice from experts tonight. At long last, a Powerball winner. Not just one, but two. Our reporter takes us to where one of those jackpot tickets was sold. Our NBC News exclusive with the new owners of the Indianapolis Colts, a trio of sisters as more women take charge across the NFL.
This is NBC Nightly News with Hallie Jackson.
Good evening.
Tonight on PBS News Weekend, Chicago braces for a crackdown on crime and illegal immigration as President Trump's social media posts heighten tensions. Then a wave of violence sweeps across Indonesia as rioters protest a worsening economy and collapsing job market. And a new book tells the story of how multiple generations of one family built the oldest black-owned construction company in America.
I came from a long line of builders and architects, and I just think it's important that you document where we came from.
Thank you for watching Amish Shakil 5858. I am Amish Shakil. I hope you will visit again. Have a good life. Bye-bye.